I think the reason why most people don't do extraordinary things is because they don't want to pay the price. It's just flat out. It challenges every fiber in your being to do something that is extraordinary. It's extraordinary. It doesn't matter what background you came from. I can tell you this, I wish I knew this when I was in my 20s. I understood this when I was in my 20s. Oh my goodness. You get a little money in your pocket, you get real comfortable. There's a big difference between great and extraordinary. Huge difference. Listen to some people who have strived to be extraordinary and settled to be great, because quite frankly it feels great being great. But the additional cost you have to pay to be extraordinary means walking away from greatness. There was a golfer by the name of Tiger Woods. Extraordinary golfer. Reinvented himself, I can't tell you how many times because I don't know. But you can kind of track it by the number of trainers that he's, not trainers, but uh, golf teachers that he's had. None of them were as extraordinary as him as a player, but they were extraordinary golf teachers like Hank Haney and Butch Harmon. And see, extraordinary people have extraordinary people around them to teach them how to be extraordinary in their talent. Well, if they weren't as good as Tiger, then what they have to teach him? The principles of being extraordinary. Oftentimes, when I'm talking to people in my world that look down on me, they have never paid the price to be extraordinary in any field. Not extraordinary. Maybe they're great, but not extraordinary. To pay the price to be extraordinary means you have to go through the battles and pay the price. It's costly. You may lose a lot of money. You may lose a lot of friends. But you have to have ultimate belief in the Spirit of God that's within you, that's leading and guiding you in all truth. Given whatever application you want to give it. Some people will say, you'll never be an investor. And God has placed it in your heart by the Spirit of truth to be an investor. And if you don't pay the price, you will never become an investor. As an example, that's just an example. Maybe you're a counselor. And you look at yourself in a certain way where you don't think you have anything to offer. No, everything you're going through makes you a great counselor. Maybe you're an attorney. Yeah, but I had some run-ins in the law myself, and yes, that's what makes you a great attorney. You got to see it Extraordinary people see it differently. And we often have to explain ourselves to people who are great. Now I'm going to go through these scriptures, these chapters 40 to finish 42 and up to 44 very quickly, because I want you, and by the way, this is for my kids, my grandkids, my brothers and sisters around the world who consider me a teacher, and whomever else is listening. God bless you. See, the idea is that for you to understand what this actually looks like in your own life, for you to understand what this actually looks like in your own life, because when you're in your own life, things feel different. It's one thing to get on a video and listen to a guy like me, but when you're in your own life, things feel different. And if you don't know how to see from a different perspective, which is the reason why I'm talking about the importance of getting out of your own head. And if you can't see it from a different perspective, then it's going to cause you to not be able to see the extraordinary. You got to be able to see it from something other than a human perspective. And again, humans are innately selfish. You're not doing it on purpose. It's just being born into humanity. You think from your own perspective. The idea of renewing your mind is learning how to see things differently. Or you wouldn't have to renew your mind. To see things differently is to see it from a different perspective. So I'm going through this explanation so that you understand it's not just about reading the information. In fact, I'm not going to do much reading on this. I don't even know where I put the Bible. What I want to do is I want to share with you the story of what happened after they went to go see their brother, not knowing it was their brother. And hopefully you listen to video 99 and video 98 at least to understand this, because we're laying groundwork. Joseph has explained to his brothers and his father that he saw himself as a leader, and they were despondent. They didn't believe him. In truth, or maybe they did believe him, but in truth, their brothers threw him in a pit to be, first of all, they were thinking about killing him. One or two of the brothers said, no, let's not go that route. So they spilled the blood of a goat on his coat of many colors, took it back to their father, and sold him off to Midianites. I'm explaining to you the process of extraordinary belief in the Spirit of God. After receiving a vision of leadership, immediately he got challenged. This is where some people give up. And they live in their poverty. Not poverty financially, poverty mentally, spiritually. You don't want to pay the price. So you fit in. You give up your vision. Don't do that. So Joseph, thrown in the pit, didn't complain. Got sold off to the Midianites, went into Egypt, sold into Egypt, into Potiphar's house. First of all, while he was in the pit, didn't complain, went to Egypt, went to jail, went to Potiphar's house, went back to jail, went to the Pharaoh's house. Everywhere he went, he led. because he didn't complain. And he understood his vision was coming to pass. Never lost hope. He had favor everywhere he went. He led. He wasn't trying to lead, but a focused mindset that is exceptional leads in good and bad situations. Let me say it differently. In other words, how you see me is not my concern. I see myself based upon the vision that God gave me. You can't see it because God didn't give it to you. And I can't fault you for what you can't see in me. It's not my concern. So I'm a leader in the pit. I'm a leader in the jail. I'm a leader in Potiphar's house. And I'm a leader in Pharaoh's house. Jail twice. In fact, when you see me, you won't recognize me because I have had to make adjustments in myself by renewing my mind and becoming better in every circumstance that you call negative. I call it a life lesson. And I'm up for the challenge because I want to be extraordinary. I still believe in the vision of my childhood. Talking about Joseph. In the midst of all the circumstances. Now the brothers were dealing with a famine, and their father said, "Why are you standing around? Go get food. I hear there's food in Egypt." So they go to Egypt. By the way, Joseph set up the economic system in Egypt. Their brother is governor of Egypt. He created the economic system of Egypt using the principles of the kingdom of God. He was tested. He was tested. He was able to interpret the dreams also of the baker, the butler. He learned his leadership skills in captivity and then ended up interpreting the dreams of the Pharaoh himself and leading the nation out of poverty through an economic system which was a shared system. Well, it was an interesting system because, quite frankly, people ended up giving up their land. But that'll push me off in a different direction. I just want you to see, we all have to go through tests to be extraordinary. In fact, the test to be extraordinary is so much greater than the test to be great. So much different. You have to have supreme confidence to be extraordinary, and not yourself. In the principles you stand for. See, they look the same. They are not the same. This is not about self-confidence. This is about the principles you say you stand for. I dare say Joseph wasn't quote-unquote self-confidence. He was confident in the principles he learned as a child from Jacob, Israel, the 12 tribes. When they came to get food from him the first time, they had to sacrifice, leaving Simeon behind because he wanted to see the younger brother. They had to go through a test. Now, one part of that was telling the truth about their plight. So they had to be transparent. That's how Joseph, in my view, that's how Joseph knew they had healed. They mentioned him, not knowing they were mentioning him to him. We are 12 brothers to one father. He inquired about his little brother, Benjamin. Yeah, he's at home. Bring him back to me. So they were in ward for 3 days. In other words, they were in Egypt for 3 days, and eventually left Reuben in the ward, and the other brothers had to go back and get Benjamin. Jacob was like, no, you're not, first of all, I lost Joseph. He's dead. Now Simeon's locked up. And now you want to take Benjamin? Ain't going to happen. So they didn't go back until all the corn was eaten up, and they had to go back. They were being tested. See, the point I want you to understand is, and by the way, Jacob's rich. This isn't about money for all you people who think this is about money. Just some of the most foolhardy, simple perspectives out there is, how to get more money. They were willing to pay for the corn. In fact, when Jacob sent them back the second time, he gave them double the money and sent them gifts. Well, I thought it was a famine. It was. It was a drought. Because he couldn't grow certain things in a drought, corn being one of them. Almond trees still produced almonds. He still owned his land. Still had money. Don't be so simple-minded. Everything is not about money. Some things are about character and integrity, virtue, peace, integrity. Did I say integrity? I'm not sure. So the second time, Jacob was like, listen, okay, go ahead, take Benjamin, but take double the money. Take the original money that they put back in, that they put back in the bag, because quite frankly, we don't know if that was a mistake. So take double the money and take gifts with you. Like, don't mess this up. Is what Jacob or Israel was saying to him. Chapter 43, verse 11. And their father Israel said unto them, if so, now do this. Take of the best fruits in the land and your vessels, and carry down the man a present. A little balm, a little honey, spice, myrrh, nuts, almonds. Take double money in your hand, and the money, he's like, be careful. If you don't bring Benjamin back, I'm going to be. He told him, I'm not going to be happy. So they were afraid of what was going to happen. Verse 18, and the men were afraid because they were brought unto Joseph's house, and they said, because of the money that was returned in our sacks at the first time, are we brought in? They're still living in the past. No, that's not the reason why you're being brought in. You don't even understand the reason why you brought in. The servant had to calm him down and said, relax. Verse 23, and he said, peace to you. Fear not. Your God and the God of your father hath given you treasure in your sacks. Relax. Hard to do when you're living in the past. So let me get to it. Verse 30 in Genesis chapter 43, verse 30, and Joseph made haste, for his bowels did yearn. In other words, he's about to cry again. He left the room. He's having a good time with his family. Left the room. Still hasn't told him who he was. And they haven't picked up on it either. About to cry, yearned upon his brother, and he sought to weep. And he entered into chamber and wept there and washed his face, came back out in verse 32. And they sat on him by himself and for them by themselves, and for the Egyptians, which did eat with him by themselves, because the Egyptians might not eat bread with the Hebrews, for that an abomination unto the Egyptians. That was their tradition, which obviously Joseph wasn't tripping, because he learned both traditions. The last part I'll leave you with, and we'll touch on chapter 44, is Joseph commanded the steward to sabotage Benjamin by putting a silver goblet or a silver cup in Benjamin's bag, along with their money and all the other stuff when they were set to go back. This is the test. And when they are gone out of the city, in verse 4, Joseph said unto the steward, follow after the men. In verse 12, and he searched and began the eldest and left the youngest in Benjamin's sack, and they rent their clothes and laddered every man his ass and returned to the city. And Judah and his brethren came to Joseph's house, for he yet there, and they fell before him, because they found the silver cup that Joseph had sabotaged them with. God is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. The system is his. He can do what he wants. Our mistake is that we think that we're not supposed to go through anything, and so we want to sit back and whine and complain. Our job is to go through the test, learn the principles of going through the test. This is what Joseph sent them through. Yeah, but why did he set them up? It's a principle to be learned. Joseph went through all of his tests without complaints and became the governor of Egypt. He had to learn how the system operates. That takes going through tests. You're going to get this before I'm finished with this. We're coming back to Genesis chapter 44 in the next video. Video 101 of Genesis. If these videos or these podcasts are helpful to you, please like and share them with everyone you know. Bible study, business meetings, friends, family. It will be helpful. And thank you for taking the time to learn of the kingdom of God and usher in the kingdom of heaven.